On this episode of Supercars Torque, Tekno Team Sydney has been sold. There had been some rumours swirling around the paddock that Tekno Team Sydney was for sale. Jono Webb came out as late as November saying, no, we are not for sale. We'll be running 2 cars next year. And news has come out that the team has been sold to Peter Xiberras. Hopefully I pronounced that right, of PremiAir Hire. You may remember him as the sponsor of the of Gary Jacobson's car. Apparently he has been floating the team a little bit over the last 12 months or so. Well known in the drag racing circles from what I hear. I don't follow Top Fuel drag racing at all these days. He won the championship that was over 2019 to 2021, quite a long span there. Of course, he has got big plans to make the team a front runner, blah, 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 blah. First step would be probably to upgrade the driver lineup and upgrade the cars. Well, actually, probably first step would be to get at least one engineer. We know that probably the biggest asset that the team has had over the last 12 months, Jeff Slater, is going to Walkinshaws. He's going to engineer Nick Percat next year. That's a really good pickup from Walkinshaw. Just on a little bit of a side note there with that one though, is Walkinshaw getting a little bit top heavy? They have got quite a few guys there now that you just wonder if they're going to end up in a little bit of a situation like Triple Eight is, where they start losing a few guys because they have got too many there at the top and there is nowhere to progress. But that is a little bit of a side note. The focus on this video obviously is Tekno Team Sydney being sold. So the main talking points on this one, first one is drivers. Fabian Coulthard, apparently he found out on social media that the sale had happened, so one can only assume he won't be a driver. Is this a bit like Lee Holdsworth, just finding out, shocked that he lost his tick for drive and then signs with the Walkinshaws the next day as an Enduro co-driver? We do hear a bit of this. I'd imagine unless you bury your head in the sand, you'd have to know something was going on. Where does Fabs go? Obviously, Walkinshaws are looking for a co-driver there. Wouldn't be a bad place. Dick Johnson Racing could do with stepping up their co-drivers a little bit. Would he want to go back to Dick Johnson's after being dumped? So Walkinshaws, I suppose, is the natural kind of place. Gary Jacobson, we can only assume he will stay. I'd say they'll want, a couple of paid drivers next year. Really, it's going to be one of those building kind of years while they get up to speed. I can't really see the point in pumping a heap of money into those cars to get them up to speed when you just go to Gen 3. I'd say the pressing things really, rather than getting car speed, would be, getting a location to run the business from. Xiberras has come out and said, we're not sold on staying in Sydney. We are looking at, Melbourne and Brisbane, the typical kind of locations of supercars teams, so you can get personnel a lot easier. So that's, shoring that up is probably more important than worrying about where they're going to finish this year. So we can assume 2 paid drivers. Zane Goddard has, as far as I know, he's still got a budget and he's looking for a seat. Gary's got his budget there, so let's put 2 and 2 together, and that's probably going to be your driver lineup, with Fabs finding himself somewhere for a Bathurst co-drive. The other question is, where does Jono Webb land? Does he just go totally into retirement, or does someone sign him as a Bathurst co-driver? Probably can bring a little bit of a budget if he was inclined to do that. And before I'll get into a second about, Jono and whatever, just remember that when Shane went to Triple Eight were looking at running, Jono as Shane's co-driver in the endurance races that year. I think something with, you know, him owning a team and all of that kind of crap that we had with Jason Bright years and years ago running for FPR and having his own team. Things like that kind of complications kind of crept in, and they decided not to go down that path. A lot of fans of the sport have come out on social media saying how this is the best thing since sliced bread and whatever, you know, Jono Webb was the worst thing to ever happen to supercars. At the end of the day, someone has to come last, and I think over the early years, obviously the Webbs pumped a lot of money in that team to get it started, up and running Shane Van Gisbergen and things like that. They nearly won Bathurst on a couple of occasions. They finally did crack it with Will Davison in 2016. They also won the Bathurst 12-hour that year. They did also come, I'm pretty sure it was 2015, they came second in the championship with Shane Van Gisbergen, and I think it was even like third or fourth the year before. In those early years, Jono won a race for them. Grant, they were kind of a satellite DJR car that year. The results in the first few years on their own probably weren't the best, but it's not like they didn't have any results over their time. They were a respectable team. I think they decided to turn the tap off the money because trying to keep up with those latest Triple Eight parts, probably not worth it. It's not a bad hobby to have, is it? If you can, you know, keep it ticking over without pumping in much, if any, of your own money. I think that's where a lot of people don't kind of really get the idea. They just, you know, obviously if you're a billionaire or whatever that Steve Webb is, you don't get there by just throwing money away. At some point he probably decided to turn the tap off the drain, they've just continued along, and Jono's been using it as a bit of a hobby, which, as I said, not a bad hobby to have. So that's my little recap there. Don't know too much about Peter Xiberras other than him owning PremiAir Hire, and obviously he's the top fuel champion from last year. So down in the comments, let me know who you would like to see as the drivers. Obviously it's not going to be a dream world where, you know, can't see Fabs keeping his seat, especially the way he came out on social media talking about it. They're not going to go and sign the top line drivers. I imagine it's going to be someone that has to bring a budget. Realistically, they're going to be on the back of the grid all of this year. I can't see them upgrading the cars, but this could be good for, you know, when they step into Gen 3, because I'd imagine, you know, if you get the pieces in the right place, could hit the ground running next year, and, you know, bring in some decent young blokes possibly, and, you know, really kind of take this team back to where it was earlier on. And really, I mean, other than buying the licenses, there's not much asset there. You know, the cars aren't worth anything. There's no real premises. So yeah, you've bought the licenses. This is pretty much going to be a team starting from scratch. But let me know what you think down in the comments. Until next time, I'm still Dave, and I'll catch you later.